don't see.
Hi, everyone. I'm Utkarsh, the founder of Network Capital, here with Ahana, who's the co-founder of Get Clear app, a YC-backed skincare startup. Today, we're going to understand a bit more about what she's building, why, and what are some of the transformational points in her career that got her here. So welcome to Network Capital, Ahana.
Thank you so much. Really, really excited to be here chatting with you today.
So tell us a bit about how did you go down the entrepreneurial path? You just graduated, and I'm sure you were considering a wide range of options. Walk us through your choices.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background, my degree was actually in physics. So I studied physics at university. And in honesty, the reason that I signed up for a physics degree is because I thought I wanted to go into academia and be a physicist. That said, pretty much from the first term of university, I just started to feel like even though I'd grown up believing this is what I wanted, I just couldn't see myself going down that route. I didn't particularly know what the reality of a career in academia was until I got to university. And I think, I have the utmost respect for people who do go down that route. But for me personally, I think I'd always envisioned myself in an environment where I was using a slightly more diverse range of skills and where things were kind of happening a little bit more quickly. So from the first year of uni itself, I started just applying to any and every job or internship out there, whether that was in software engineering, investment banking, consulting, hedge funds, pretty much every industry I just threw myself at, not knowing much about any of them really. But the idea was to learn and to start to develop, my own sense of what I think I can have an impact on and what's also a good fit for my skill set. So I would go out of my way to just apply to everything. And it was actually in the second year of university. One day, a guy on LinkedIn reaches out to me completely cold. And he can see from my LinkedIn that I clearly like networking with all of these big companies. And he was like, look, I've just started this student graduate recruitment based platform. I'm a couple of, I think it was weeks or months into it, very early stage. And I am looking for a student at a London-based university to help get students on this platform. And two, I'm also looking for someone who can get companies onto this platform as well to match them with the students. And I, at that point, knew absolutely nothing about startups. I'd only considered, a career in a bigger company and in a more established industry. And so I had no idea what to expect from this, but I've always had a pretty wide range of interests. And this was the type of thing I'd work on as my own side project anyway. So I was just like, sure, why not? What do I lose from saying yes? It's a new experience and whatever happens, I'll learn something. And that was my first insight into entrepreneurship, being in a really, really early stage company. And whilst, I didn't necessarily see myself long term with that specific team or that specific idea, I absolutely fell in love with the job of just constantly having to problem solve and use your communication and practical and logical skills to really solve problems all day long. And there's no playbook as to how to build a company. So, I fell in love with the job, but the next problem was, well, if it's not here, then where's that going to be? It's not trivial to just start a company tomorrow and be able to support yourself. And I knew that when I graduated, I didn't want to be reliant on my parents. I wanted to be financially, at least, supporting myself. So I thought, okay, well, what I can do is I can go into a finance job. I know that they pay reasonably well, so I can do that for a couple of years, save up some money, and then once I have the financial means to do so, then I can do whatever I'm really passionate about. So, I did all the internships, secured the grad jobs, and was totally ready to just do my final year of uni, go into that route and be happy, happily ever after. However, it was the summer of 2020, COVID had hit, and that was the point that I'd finished the third year of my degree, was about to start the fourth. And because of COVID, societies, extracurriculars, all of that was pretty much cancelled. And given that I wasn't the biggest fan of my degree, the thought of having no extracurriculars whatsoever wasn't the happiest feeling. So I thought, okay, this is a great time to have a side project or just something to work on with maybe a couple of friends alongside university for the final year. And so it was pretty much as simple as that. I called up some friends and I was like, let's work together. And about a week into working on a project together, and this was not Clear, by the way, this was a different company called Quill. I'd just done this banking internship and written a load of notes. And so I thought, we could save junior bankers around the world by building some software that helps the note-taking process, automates it, makes a summary more quickly. And so that was the idea. Didn't put too much thought into it. This was just a fun side project. And a week into working together, my now co-founder mentioned Y Combinator to me. And I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know much about the venture capital ecosystem. I just knew that I loved the startup job. And so I went to their website, and in true Ahana style, when I saw the application form, being grossly underqualified for this, I just put in an application. I thought, why not? I lose 30 minutes by writing this and whatever. And so to kind of jump ahead in the story, and I'm happy to go into more detail, but put in an application with zero expectations. And about 3 months later, I found myself halfway through the final year of the physics degree, having just been accepted to Y Combinator 4 days into pivoting idea onto Clear, and then had to make the decision, well, this is my dream. It's my dream job. It's in a dream space. I'd always wanted to do something in the skincare space because I've suffered with acne growing up, and I'm still always trying different medications. So I couldn't believe it. It was the fact that I was able to get funding in an accelerator like Y Combinator on a project that I was deeply passionate about. So at that point, I made the decision to actually leave my degree. I dropped out, but I did still graduate with a bachelor's rather than a master's, which I should have got. Turned down the grad jobs in finance, and here I am a year later.
Your journey to Y Combinator wasn't straightforward, right? One, I
No.
know that you'd written so many applications for banking, consulting, that you must be a master in writing applications.
Mm-hmm. I think that was it. Yeah, but after the application process was the real challenge.
So walk us through your YC journey because it's a very competitive process.
Yeah.
What worked for you, and what
Yeah.
was the ups and downs? I know there were a few.
Oh, absolutely. So I think, as you just touched on there, the first step is the online application. And I went into that with zero expectations. But as you also pointed out, I have actually done, I don't know, hundreds of applications. I think every summer I'd apply to around 50 internships. So I was always pretty career driven. And, I like writing as well. I really enjoy English. And so I think on the online application, what I did do a good job of was being clear, being concise, and highlighting the strengths of the team. I think those were really the three key things that I did well, because in truth, we were a week into this. We didn't have traction. We didn't have product. I don't know what else could have convinced them, if I'm being completely honest. And to this day, I still don't know exactly what it was on that online application that we really didn't consult anyone about. I didn't even consult my co-founders. I just put it in. I didn't think anything of it. And so, I think for that, I think there's always an element of luck when it comes to these highly, highly competitive programs. But I think generally, I think that I'm an all right communicator and have done a lot of online applications for various things, trying to sell myself or a team or an idea along the years. So that was the first step. And it was about a month after applying. And honestly, we'd forgotten about the application. We weren't expecting anything, that we got the email back saying that we had an interview.
Okay.
So at that point, we couldn't believe it. The first thing we did was we started talking to some YC alumni, and we explained the situation, that we were students. We just came up with this like fun idea. We haven't really talked to any users. We haven't written any code. And this YC alumni, and I won't name names, but I think they were thoroughly disimpressed with us. They weren't like, okay, wow, I don't know how you got the interview either, but you have to launch something. You need to start actually building and iterating, talking to users. And we were very, very fortunate that from finding out that we had an interview, we actually had 2 months until the actual interview. And I think the reason for that is YC saw on our application just how early stage we were. And so in that 2-month period, while we were still studying, we really did devote a lot of time into Quill, which was the first project. And by the time the YC interview came, we did have an alpha version of this software running, and it was running at around 15 startups on unpaid pilots. However, there were two very distinct problems with the business. The first is that the software wasn't very good. And the second was that we thought, okay, wow, if we actually get money to work on this idea for, who knows how long, is this the space where we want to have that impact? How passionate are we about meeting minutes? And the truth was that we didn't really care. Like, of course, no one likes taking notes, but equally, when we'd all, thought about this as a career, this wasn't the idea that gave us that excitement, that we even felt like we had a huge advantage over anyone else to build. So we were thinking of pivoting, but equally, we were absolutely terrified of telling Y Combinator that we were thinking of pivoting. So we pretended like everything was fine, prepared a lot for the interview, did practices with each other, with other YC alumni. And then we went ahead and had the interview. Now, we also knew that with YC, on the night or day of your interview, you have to be available for the next following hours, because sometimes they have follow-up questions, sometimes they like to re-interview candidates. It's different for everyone. So we had our interview at around 10 p.m. UK time, which meant we had to stay up till about 4. And we also knew that with YC, when you're successful, you tend to get a phone call, and when you're unsuccessful, you tend to get an email. So that night, we received about 4 emails from YC. The first was asking, like, are you undergrads? Are you postgrads? We don't understand your degrees. The second was, can we see an app demo? The third was, how long have you really been working on this for? Like, what's, more details on the traction side. And finally, at around 4 a.m., we get a long email back from them being like, look, here's the deal. We like you as a team. Like, we can see you've achieved a lot in a short amount of time, but we don't like this idea. And we've seen companies try this in the past, and it's never really worked out. So we want to talk to you again in a week's time. Come up with something better or show us more traction on Quill. And so this was also our last week of term. We had all of our master's thesis, deadlines, exams, but simultaneously, it was such a huge opportunity for us. It was kind of like maybe they sensed it. They read our minds that we also weren't like fully, our hearts weren't in Quill. And so but we also didn't want to give up on Quill, because we'd also been told by previous YC alumni that sometimes they do this to test you and just see how committed you are to your idea. So we ended up getting a couple more pilot programs running, making some more progress with Quill. But we also used the opportunity to come up with something that we cared about. And as I said, I'd even joked with the team that, like, I wanted to do something skincare related. And my co-founder now, he is big into habit tracking, sort of wellness apps and things like that. So we talked about it, but we'd never really synthesized it down. This is the problem and this is the solution. But that's exactly what I did in that 4-day period. I just talked to all these people that I engaged with over the years on these online skincare communities, mainly on Reddit and Facebook. And from that, came up with an initial thesis that people wanted a better way of knowing if their products were working for them, and also a better way of actually seeing what other people were actually using to help infer, what they should be using. And so that was came up with the idea very quickly. Our then CTO, his exams ended at 12 p.m. on the Friday, which was the day of the interview. From 12 till 8, he built the prototype. From 8 till 10, I did 4 user demos, and then 10:30 was the interview. And the second interview was quite different to the first. Normally, YC interviews are 10 minutes, but this went on for nearly an hour. And it ended pretty abruptly with the interviewer leaving. Then she came back 2 minutes later and was like, okay, cool. Batch starts in 2 weeks, incorporate a company in the US, open a bank account. See you then. And then we were just like, our first question was, are you sure? And the second question was, well, which idea do you want us to work on? And she's like, well, it's your company, figure it out. And so from that point, we actually booked an office hour with one of the YC partners straight away before the batch started to discuss the situation. And we were really, really excited about Clear and this like skincare idea. We felt there was so much more scope than there was with Quill. So we talked it through with the partners, did a bunch more of customer discovery work ourselves, and then made the decision pretty quickly to just stick with Clear. And I think it was the right one.
The right one for sure. What are you building? I know there's a social aspect to it. Walk us through it and tell us how you decided to figure out a solution to a problem that you've experienced in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, grown up with skin issues, and I'd always felt like the whole skincare journey is a bit broken from one, knowing what products you should be using, educating yourself on skincare. It's hard to know where you're getting your information from, how trustworthy it is. And it's really difficult when you walk into a drugstore and you have all these products and you're like, I don't know which one to use. From that to tracking whether products are working, it's really difficult to know if something's actually having an effect on your skin, to even the cosmetic formulation process. If you look at the ingredients that are going into skincare products, it's not that different from what it was 10 years ago. It is in the sense that now there's more kind of social constraints, as in people want vegan, cruelty-free, fragrance-free. But beyond that, in terms of the actual efficacy of the products, there's not as much science and innovation as there should be for such a massive industry. And so, I'd kind of always seen these three kind of problems of knowing what to use, knowing what's working, and actually making skincare better. So after talking to users, what we found were these two key distinct things were people wanted a better way of knowing if their products were working, and people wanted to see what others with skin like them were actually doing day in, day out. So we thought, well, people want to track their own routines and they also kind of want to see what other people are tracking. Let's build that. Let's build a platform where people can put the products that they're using in, they can take progress pictures, they can label themselves by their skin types, and then they can actually go and find other people with similar skin types and skin concerns. And rather than seeing curated content or, a one-off blog post or a one-off video, you're actually following someone's journey and seeing exactly what they're doing every single day. So firstly, it's building transparency in this whole education process, and also creating more realistic standards, because that's another big problem in the beauty space and the skincare space, that people expect to use something and overnight it changes their appearance, which is absolutely not the case. And so, that was the initial idea, and that's the app that we launched. So we started coding in around April, and we launched the app in June, me and my co-founder. And then after we launched, there were sort of three very interesting things that happened that we weren't expecting to, because we started with just this social community app. The first thing was a dermatologist who was actually part of our initial beta community. She was like, well, actually, if I had a way of accessing someone's progress photos from Clear, if they could send it to me in clinic, that would save me a ton of time, because my patients waste time in consultations scrolling through their camera roll trying to find their progress pictures. And also they don't remember the names of the products that they've used, so it's difficult to get their history. But you have this on Clear, so can you just send it to me in a PDF on email? So we built that feature as a really quick thing to add, but it was interesting to us that in a way we were actually being taken seriously in the more kind of medical dermatological community. So that was an interesting thing for us to sort of, as we grow and scale, something to think about. The second thing was in terms of how we actually built the app and the data that we collect on product usage. So for context, for you to add your skincare products to your routine or leave a product review, you need to have the product data on the app. So we need the name, the picture to make it look pretty, the ingredients, all of that information. And the way we did that was partnering with skincare brands and retailers. So through these partnerships, and some of them were based on sort of regular affiliate programs, others were sort of a B2B sales pipeline, me reaching out, convincing them to work with us. Once the brands started asking, what actually are you building? They were the ones that were like, wow, so how long a product was on someone's wish list before they purchased it. You know how long it takes someone to get through a bottle of our products. You know exactly which other products someone is using with our products. You know if they're using it morning, evening. You know the age demographic, the skin concern demographic. That's practically impossible for brands to access at the moment, because the way things are done is through basic user surveys, and people don't like filling in surveys, and even then it's not quantitative data. So we looked into this more and more, and we started to realize that, wow, we have a lot of really helpful product usage data. And even on the cosmetic formulation perspective, as I mentioned, it's not very data driven or scientific at the moment. And the reason for that is there isn't enough data in the space. But what we're doing is people are taking pictures of their skin every day and inputting the products and the exact combinations of ingredients they use. So actually, we can then analyze that data, see the quantitative changes in someone's skin, and then pass this on to the cosmetic formulators, the professionals who can make skincare and actually make it better. So, we're delving more into that stuff now, and I'm in the process of kind of securing LOIs and starting to bring that to life. And the third thing was a kind of marketplace, there's almost fintech element. As I mentioned, we had partnerships with brands so that people could interact with products on our platform. And you could also buy products through Clear via an affiliate link, which meant that we could track the spending and how people were buying stuff. And what we saw is that, we basically created a marketplace, which we didn't realize we would. We thought this was purely a social app, but people are actually buying things based off of seeing someone they follow use something consistently. So we we'd seen other companies launch kind of niche debit cards. So a card for gamers or a card for vegans, where you get specialized rewards if you use that card. And we just wanted to see if something like this could work for us. So in around August of last year, just 2 months after launching the main social app, what we did is we actually launched a debit card pilot program to 10 of our users in the US. And this was to test three kind of key things. The first was, firstly, can we launch a card? Is it hard? Is it easy? We had no idea. The second was, are our users willing to go through the effort of signing up for one more card if it gives them better rewards? And the third was, can we actually get better rewards? What kind of margins are the brands and the retailers willing to pass on to us? And after talking to them, we found that the small indie brands were willing to pass on 30% of their margin, which, for reference, the margins are at around 80%. Skincare is a very high margin business, and we knew this going into it. But that's incredible. If we can pass that straight on to a user and people are saving 30% on every skincare purchase, that's huge. And then for the online sort of mid-tier retailers, it was around 20%. And for the big brands, of course, it was lower. And so, but still, it was very interesting to us that even being 2 months into launching with comparatively little traction, we were still able to get these kinds of discount rates that we could pass on to our users. So we didn't end up rolling this out to the waitlist at the time, just because we want to make sure that we have solid foundations and really nail the kind of core community aspect first. But the idea is that long term, currently, if you buy skincare, you might see an ad for a product on Facebook. You might go to Reddit and YouTube to start researching the product. Then you might go to the Shopify site to buy the product. You might use your Monzo card to buy the product, and then Stripe will process the payment. What we are going to be doing as we grow and scale is taking all 5 of those steps that I just mentioned and bringing them into one platform. And we're starting with the product discovery and the product research. And then the next step will be actually bringing the purchase, the transaction, into the app rather than through a link. The next step is to actually get people spending skincare with their Clear cards. And the last sort of step of this plan is to actually offer our brand partners Clear bank accounts, because we can undercut existing payments processes once we have people spending via our own financial systems. So actually creating this entire skincare ecosystem from a kind of integrated commerce perspective as well is part of the plan.
Well, the plan sounds robust. Tell us about your growth. How have you grown over the past months, and how's the impact of the pandemic been?
Yeah, we are a company that was born out of the pandemic. So I think in a way, it's taught us just to be quite resilient, and in a way, we also don't really know much else. There was no Clear before the pandemic, so we're entirely remote, and we've done everything from our bedrooms and our basement flats. So in terms of the company's growth, as I mentioned, we initially launched the app in June of 2021, and we're now sat at around 6,000, a little over 6,000 users. And that's been without any marketing spend. So that's been purely through organic word of mouth, people talking about us on social media. As of this month, I've actually started some more kind of marketing brand building efforts. So not spending money on it per se, but making TikTok videos and YouTube videos and all of that kind of stuff in an attempt to try and, build some virality without having to spend money, just because, if you can avoid it, then I think it's a good idea to try. So, the key ways that we've grown are really, one, me having been in this community as myself for so long. It was relatively easy to build, the initial beta community, get initial testers, just because I had a presence as myself on these communities. I would genuinely post for so many years. So that's how we initially got to basically our first 1,000 users, was just through me talking about Clear on the existing platforms. The next thing we did was an incentive scheme for micro influencers. So what we'd seen is that it's becoming a crowded space. There's more and more people who are getting into skincare and want to create content around it. And so what we thought is that we can actually try and help some of these micro influencers boost their career by giving them more credibility on a skincare platform, because there also aren't many platforms just dedicated to skincare. So we said, if you can just bring 100 of your existing followers to Clear, we will give you a verified badge, we'll give you a blue tick on our platform, which down the line will mean that you can monetize through Clear. You can monetize your recommendations through affiliate links. And the reason this was quite exciting to these micro influencers is because on their, on their Instagram or TikTok, a lot of the times they didn't actually have the follow account to get the affiliate links from the brands. But because we control the relationship with the brands and the retailers, we can give them whatever affiliate link they want. So we started doing this scheme, and this worked really, really well to get that kind of really quick growth. And it certainly helped a lot with content creation on the platform itself. So that worked well. But now as we're continuing, we're trying to make more product changes rather than extrinsic changes, just because we do want to make sure that we're actually getting closer to product market fit and making sure it's the product that people want rather than the badge or the title. And so what we did is we did a big deep dive in around October. We really delved into the metrics and the retention and the growth rates and correlated that with when we'd launched certain features. And then we went back, spoke to users, found new people to speak to, and really developed a very comprehensive product roadmap for the next few months, which primarily looks at leveraging existing user behaviors and building viral loops into our own platform. So for an example, since the day we launched, there hasn't been a day that we haven't got new users and new downloads. And we went like, where is this coming from? And what we were seeing is on these various skincare groups online, people were actually screenshotting their diaries on Clear, sharing it to a group to say, hey, these are the products I use. What do you think? Or what's your feedback? Or what are your recommendations? And from there, there'd be this interaction of like, oh, like this, yeah, these are my recommendations. By the way, what app are you doing this on? And so we were getting referrals that way. But we can make that easier for people. We can do it such that you can export your routine with a link and then put it in your link tree, put it in your Instagram bio, whatever it is. And so it's looking at these existing behaviors that we're seeing our users doing and just trying to see how we can really capture that in a more efficient and easy way so that we continue our growth. And the goal for the end of this year, and it's difficult to quantify, is really just feeling like we're at product market fit, where we're seeing a very high growth rate and a high retention rate. Those are the two key metrics for us. And I think we'll be happy when we get there.
Yeah. So great. 2022 has a clear goal set out for you. How are you thinking about, saying no to stuff? Because when you're in a space like skincare, every other day you might be getting new ideas to launch a product, go after a skinfluencer, as you call it on the website. I'm very interested in understanding what you say no to.
I don't. It's something I'm working on, to be honest. I think at this stage, it's also difficult when you're an early stage founder and there are so many hats to wear, in the sense that you're still involved in the tech process, you're involved in the user acquisition, you're involved in the fundraising, you're involved in the marketing, the brand building. And sometimes when you say no to things, you feel like, wow, it's literally my job to do everything at this time. And am I not doing this well enough? What I have done is just try to plan things out in the most sort of time efficient way and what makes most sense logically. And for us, the number one priority, as I mentioned, is product market fit and really building a product that people love. And I think we're getting there. I think Clear is good, but I think we can make it so much better. And we have so many features that we need to implement over the next couple of months that I'm excited to see what the metrics look like after them. So that was the key priority. And what we found, an issue that we were having, is that we weren't iterating quickly enough because it was just me and my co-founder on the team. We need more tech capacity. So we now have 6 people on payroll. I'm now moving away from tech, and everyone else is just on product, just trying to launch features and improve that cadence so we can make sure we're being diligent about the timeline. So that's by far the number one priority. And the way that we've addressed that is through hiring and trying to do that efficiently and then managing the team. The second most important thing after kind of the product and retention is the growth. As I've said, it's not the key thing because we have had growth every month, but we want to improve the retention first. That said, being a consumer company, we understand that image is important and brand building is equally important. So as of January, as of basically this last month, I have started kind of making the social medias more cohesive, putting a lot more effort into platforms like Twitter, into TikTok. And I've been doing YouTube for a couple of months as well. So really just trying to build up a bit of brand identity. So when people approach me with things relating to that or opportunities for Clear to gain more visibility, I'm in the phase where I will say yes to those things because it does help us with the second priority. The third priority is on the kind of the data side and the brand partnerships. So again, I am still taking meetings with brands and kind of, getting more products on Clear, getting more product samples to give to our skinfluencers, doing that sort of work, starting to get the LOIs for the data down the road. But again, that comes under the marketing right now for me, because even if a brand tomorrow says, yes, we want your data, we can't give it to them. We're not there yet on the product itself. We don't have the tech capacity to do so. So that's why that's sort of like the third level. And then now beyond that, I am starting to say no to more things. A big thing now is investor meetings, given that we have closed the round. And I spent so much time fundraising. It wasn't an easy process at all for me. I generally say no to investor meetings when we're not fundraising. Sometimes people are pushy, and I understand some people like building relationships sooner rather than later. So occasionally I say yes. But I think that unfortunately investors are getting most of my no's at the moment, which feels kind of nice because normally it's them giving me the no's. And otherwise, actually, the other thing that I do say yes to a lot, which unfortunately I'm probably not going to be able to do as much of because it does take a lot of my time, is just meeting with other founders. I think building a company can sometimes be a lonely experience in the sense that not many people really understand the difficulties that you go through, the level of responsibility that you face, and how closely you attach your personal success with that of your company. And so I think especially building in public and trying to sort of all part of these marketing efforts, it does gain people's attention and they want to talk about their companies and trade notes, exchange journeys. And I really enjoy that kind of stuff. I love chatting with other founders, but I think I may have to be cutting down my coffee chats because it's getting a little excessive. But I try to help where possible, especially now it's like YC application season. I get a lot of people asking me to review their applications and do mock interviews. And I always feel like when I was in their shoes, I had so many amazing people help me that I really do feel good about trying to make time to help others. So that's something that I do prioritize a lot, and something that I would idealistically like to continue doing for as long as I can.
Got it. Are you familiar? You probably obviously are with the creator economy, the passion economy. I think you're a participant in that in a way.
I guess, yeah. I mean, if I'm honest, like I wouldn't know exactly how to describe the creator economy, but I have a sense for like sort of what it is.
Yeah. So what we are seeing there is that the power is shifting from institutions to people. So people are suddenly, whether it comes to skincare or education, or any kind of socialish product experiences, the power is accruing to the person. How are you seeing that in the skincare industry? And could you talk us a bit more about that? And the reason I asked you this question was also because I think you're a creator yourself. You have a pretty prolific YouTube account. Before this particular discussion, I saw your interesting tweet about raising money and sweatpants, etc., which was hilarious. So,
The green
so I do,
sweatpants are on right now. Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
So,
mean, yes. So regarding that in the skincare space, it is almost 100% creator led, and that's almost why we started Clear, is because when people want to learn about skincare, they're not going straight to a doctor or a dermatologist or a medical institution. Equally, they're not going to, one single website. They're going to individuals on social media. That's how they're learning about skincare. And that's why I wanted to make the process more transparent, because there's huge advantages of things working that way and having individual creators share their knowledge and their experiences. But equally, it causes problems because you don't always know where that information is coming from. And with something like skincare, where you're actually putting things on your face and there is a medical element to it as well, it can actually be dangerous if you don't fully understand, or you've misinterpreted something, or played into a TikTok trend of what people are doing and burning their faces with. So that was actually a big motivation for giving the same creators a space, but with a little more transparency and credibility. So, for example, it's the same people on Clear that you'll get putting content on Instagram, but the difference is on Clear, you can actually see what this person is using every single day. So if they're leaving sponsored content for a brand and you go into their diary and you can see they've never used that product before, you as the consumer are now empowered to make that decision for yourself. Do I trust this review? Do I not trust this review? and you can go from there. So, I mean, it's hugely creator focused. And actually, something that we just added to Clear last week was a lot of the times our users, they follow certain influencers in the space, and the influencers are growing so much, especially in the last 2 years, with people caring more about skincare in lockdowns and going out less. And so what we found is that people now, if you're a content creator, you can't just exist on YouTube. You can't just exist on Twitter. You have to do them all. You have to do YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and you're on all platforms. But then again, as the consumer, it makes it difficult to digest that content because now you have to start juggling platforms in order to follow your favorite skincare creator. So what we've just actually built is a content aggregator for some of our favorite skincare influencers. And as we grow, we'll add the ones that our users want. But we've started with just 5 where we've aggregated their content across platforms and we put it in one place on Clear. So if you're really into skincare and you want to follow all of Hiram, he's probably the biggest skincare influencer, you want to see all of Hiram's content in one snapshot, Clear also allows you to consume that in one place. And the second thing that we do is we have these verified users. We have our blue ticks for kind of celebrities or influencers. We also have a yellow tick, and that's for qualified users. And we display the user's qualification. So some people are of the opinion that they only want information from registered doctors or dermatologists, or some people only want information from functional medicine practitioners or nutritionists. So what we do is if you have a qualification related to skincare or wellness, what we do is we actually put the name of your qualification on your profile, and then the onus is on the user as to they can consume whichever content they want. But those with the relevant qualifications do have something differentiating them from an influencer or a regular person.
Got it. Got it. It's fascinating. When you look at the skincare industry, what's something that scares you and what's really energizing you about what you're building?
I mean, I think kind of to answer both questions is just this, it's unsustainable, and not necessarily like from an environment perspective, but from actually a commercial perspective, especially the way the big brands work. What I mean by that is skincare it's trendy and brands are launching more products than ever because people are buying more skincare than ever, which is good news for a platform like ours, and it's great for the overall market. But what it means is it's getting harder and harder for people to know which products to buy. And equally for brands, especially big companies, just to keep up with the amount of new players, smaller companies trying to innovate in the field, they will launch products left, right, and center. But because there's so little data in the field, and I was actually talking about this with the VP of Corporate R&D at Estee Lauder, when a big company like Estee Lauder launches a new skincare product, the only thing that they really track is the amount of money they've made on it. Obviously, they track the amount of units sold, which is a proxy for how much money they've made, and they take the margins into account. But beyond that, they don't actually do very much in terms of understanding who is buying the product, where are people buying the products, how are people using the products, how are people reacting to the products on social media. And as such, what happens is it's actually difficult for brands to know when a product line hasn't done well. It's easy. If a product line does well, then okay, great, like it's done well. But if a launch flops, if it doesn't do well, most of the time, the big companies don't know why, because they don't have the tools in place, because there's no infrastructure to tell them why the launch has gone badly. So rather than doing this deep dive, because currently the only way to do it is do it yourself, they would have to spend millions conducting this research by themselves, building surveys, going to people's houses, asking them questions. And equally, as a big name company, they've tried to build sort of things kind of similar to Clear in the sense where they ask users to take pictures. But when it's a big company, people are not incentivized to do so. They don't want to just be sort of supporting one brand. People like to be brand agnostic and feel like they have that choice. And equally, you know, a company like Estee Lauder or L'Oreal or Biostolf, all the massive sort of personal care beauty products companies, they are also not great at building apps. To put it very, very frankly, how to get a person to log their skincare routine every day is not what they're good at. They're good at old school marketing and launching products, but they need people who are more agile to actually build products that are gamified, that are interesting, that are social, to get that information that can then help them improve their own formulations. And so we're actually uniquely placed to do that. It's something that the big companies can't, because it's not their expertise and they can't build the trust with the users either. So that was really exciting to me. And then also in terms of, as I said, so when a product launch doesn't do well, because the infrastructure isn't there to actually understand why and then iterate. It's not like software where if a feature flops, you talk to users and you the next day change something. You don't do that with skincare because you can't. So the solution is you just come up with a new idea and you launch another product. And then if that fails, you launch another product, and you just keep launching products until something does well without really understanding why something's gone wrong. So I really feel like once we're able to actually help brands navigate why things aren't going well and actually look at the formulations from a data-driven perspective, the industry will hopefully become actually a little bit more sustainable, in the sense that brands won't be pumping out products left, right, and center just because so and so launched an eye cream, we're launching an eye cream. It'll be that we're launching an eye cream because we have this formula that's actually going to help people's under eye area, or because we actually know what people really want now in products. So that was something that really interested me. And honestly, when we first even launched Clear, we didn't have that in mind. We didn't know that was the direction that we could even go down. We were just thinking, hey, we'll help the end consumer who wants to know if their own products are working for them. But once we realized that actually, as we kind of knew, it's a massive industry with comparatively little innovation. There's so much room for us to build things, and by virtue of us actually collecting these habits and actually understanding how the formulations work, I think we can have more impact than we initially realized.
Fascinating. What's your long-term vision? What would success look for you as an entrepreneur in the long term?
Yeah, I think for me, the way I see it is I want to be working on Clear. I love the idea and I love the space that we're in. And I think there is so much room and need for innovation in the beauty sector in general. For me, I think I would want Clear to be synonymous with skincare or with beauty, and really be at the forefront of innovation in this space, whether that is in terms of products that are being created, whether that's in terms of skincare education, whether that's even in terms of skincare payments and marketplaces and how we actually buy skincare. I think honestly that's what success would mean for me on the company level. On the personal level, I think as long as I look back to, the previous year or even the previous month, and I think, have I learned something new and have I grown as a person? That's the most important thing. And as we've alluded to slightly, it's not an easy experience. There have been many, many challenges throughout this journey, and there's always something on fire that needs addressing. And while it's obviously incredibly stressful, I think there's no other job that could have given me this much exposure at this stage of my career. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. I couldn't ask for more at this stage of life. So as long as I feel like I'm learning, I'm happy.
Awesome. Just switching gears to wrap up. Do you think following your passion is good career advice?
I would say if you're good at your passion, follow it. My passion is I'm equally passionate about playing music and playing League of Legends, but I'm not very good at either of them. And I think it's a balance of playing into your strengths and finding something that actually almost using your passion as a competitive advantage. I think that's really the killer combo. And I would love to say that, sure, it's great to follow your passion. What I would say is it's very hard to enjoy your career or be very successful in your career if you absolutely hate it. That's for sure. But if you have a good balance and there are elements that you're passionate about, I think it's okay sometimes. Not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur, not everyone would want to, and blindly pursuing something just because but you may not be equipped to do it at all, I actually don't think is a good idea. But I think, as with every decision in life, you weigh up how the pros, the cons, how well suited you are for something. And for me, I'd already done, in a way, by doing all these internships, I'd figured out what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, what careers will I be good at, and what will I not be good at. And then it was a matter of saying, okay, well, this is a great career for me. Now, what do I actually want to work on for the rest of my life? And then it was a matter of, well, actually, not only do I want to work on skincare, but I know more about skincare than most of the other entrepreneurs who are even in YC, which is a huge competitive advantage as well, because I'm in the community and I know how things work. So I think it's really about finding a balance of both. But in general, I think going like 100% on either, just doing something because it's 100% passion, or doing something because you 100% hate it, but it whatever pays a lot of money, isn't a good idea. I think moderation is key.
Profound. And lastly, what did your parents say? Are they nervous, proud, excited, somewhere in between?
My parents are the most supportive people on the planet. And to be honest, I don't think I could have achieved half of what I've done without them. They have been, I can't even describe how supportive they've been of me through this entire journey, even when it came to withdrawing from the degree, turning down the grad jobs. But in fairness to me, I think I also hedge my risks pretty well, in the sense that it's not like I didn't get any degree, which I think most parents would probably freak out about. I did still get my bachelor's in physics from Imperial. In terms of the grad jobs, again, because I was career driven enough, I was able to get deferred entry. So in a way, I even hedge the risk that even if the startup doesn't work out, there is a job waiting for me. And if I have to end up going into finance or whatever it is, there is a job there. I can't see myself going into it now, and I don't think my parents can see me going into it now. But I think they have been my biggest fans from day one. And again, like this is it can be an emotionally taxing job at times, but having that kind of support is what keeps me honestly so confident and so strong through the whole thing.
Awesome. Is there anything that we should have asked you that we haven't, or any parting message for the listeners of the show?
Yeah, I mean, I think we chatted about a lot of really interesting topics. I think my only parting message would just be that, you know, different people have different paths on life. And for me, entrepreneurship has provided me with so much purpose and such a, experience of personal growth and development. And I don't think that's the case for everyone, in the same way that I think I would have probably been a horrible physicist. I think there are people for whom this career path isn't suited to. And it's easy to talk about, the pros and working on a project you are passionate about and raising whatever hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars of money. But I think the truth is that these things they don't get old, but it's like, you have to find what truly makes you happy in life. And I think a great way of doing that is just trying different things early on in your career. And the sooner you can do that, the sooner you're able to kind of say what your non-negotiables are in life, whether that's talking to your family or going to the gym or having time to hang out with your friends. It's different for everyone. And just having your priorities clear to you can really help you navigate the hard times and the decisions you will inevitably have to make.
Fascinating. We have, almost 200,000 verified users on Network Capital. Hopefully, all of them will check out Clear after listening to your impassioned session with us. We wish you the very best and look forward to meeting you in London or somewhere else soon enough.
Thank you so much. Really, really enjoyed the conversation, and all the best.
To you too. Have a great day. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.